Hey, what's up? They've been Facebook's biggest competitor for over 10 years. They just announced that they're going to allow uh, big influencers to get tips or get paid. Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Twitter, everybody. Twitter has actually been a growth company. Everybody knows about Twitter. I'm actually surprised that their stock hasn't moved. But the fact is that their stock hasn't moved for a very long time. Actually, well, let me correct that. Since summer 2020, it has done okay. It's done about 100%. Right now, their market cap is right at about 60 billion. I'm covering Twitter because Twitter seems like it might be kind of a nice opportunity with respect to the fact that growth is getting hammered. Growth technology has kind of gotten pretty hammered here in February. At the time of this recording, it is Friday, February 26th. And it has been a brutal week in the markets. It did come up today. Today was a very nice day. We had a lot of stocks come up, in value. Etsy particularly had their earnings release and did very well. Fisker, some other, growth technology. But taking a look at Twitter, they did their earnings release end of January, so it's been, maybe not quite a month, almost a month since they did their earnings release. But we have their numbers, from 2020. And the thing that, anyway, so I'm going to take you into the numbers. It's not always super exciting to go right into the numbers right away. But basically, the thing with Twitter is I was always kind of wondering, when it is that they're going to get some momentum with respect to their share price, right? Or just their stock and it's moving. And now might be the time, especially considering a lot of the other growth has kind of, been a little bit of a tough road, right? But basically, if you take a look at the financials, let's go ahead and we'll take a look in. The big news for Twitter this week was really the fact that they announced that very, very large influencers are going to be able to start receiving, people can kind of start sending them money, which they're hoping to, participate in that transaction revenue. Lord knows they got to do something, right? The fact is, the biggest challenge that I see with Twitter, I mean, everything looks pretty good with respect to their company. If you think about, obviously, the amount of traffic they have, their brand, I mean, everybody knows Twitter. The problem with Twitter is they can't seem to grow their revenue. So let's take you in. I got 29 to 2020 revenue growth, and then I got 2018 to 2019 and 2017 to 2018 for you. We're going to take a look at those figures. So the question remains, if Twitter can grow their revenue, they might take off like a rocket. We'll see. Again, I'm not an investment advisor. Everybody, don't take this as investment advice. It's just for entertainment. But I am certainly a student of investing and have done very well with it. Actually, one of my videos in here, you can see, from summer 2017 to summer 2020, I did about 300% return, which is actually 3 times plus better than the S&P 500 return. So, all right, let's go ahead and hop in and take a look at Twitter's numbers real quick. All right, so here we go. We got Twitter. We got, I just say, I don't really look at share price too much. I look more at market cap. I mean, I look at market cap more than I look at actual share price, but I guess their share price is 77 right now at the time of this recording. They've had a pretty good week. Twitter has market cap is about 61 billion, 61 billion 500. Their 2020 revenues 3 billion 700. It's pretty solid, pretty solid revenues there. The challenge with Twitter, as I see it, is their revenue growth. We're looking at 7% revenue growth, which is not very good for a growth technology company. Just to give you a little bit of insight, so Etsy released their earnings today, again, Friday, February 26th, and Etsy's got, actually, they've got the highest revenue growth of anybody on this list, right? Can't move the thing. Anyway, the highest revenue growth of anyone on this list at over 100%, 107% from 2019 into 2020, and that's revenue for the company, right? Etsy also has something that they call merchandise sold, which is really obviously not their revenue. Their revenue is really the transaction cost that they take from selling the revenue, but the merchandise sold is a really, really big figure that they have. But this was the year that Etsy actually broke $1 billion in sales. They clocked in about 1.7 billion in sales, and then in full year 2019, their fiscal year, they clocked in at about 818 million. So Etsy is pretty much right there and pretty attractively valued. I mean, Etsy is out there at about 27 billion. Anyway, this video is not necessarily about Etsy. I want to talk about Twitter, but I'm just giving you an example. You know, we got the highest on the list in terms of year-over-year revenue growth is Etsy at over 100%, 107% revenue growth, and Twitter is pretty low on the list. I mean, I've got eBay is pretty low, and then some of these other like financial companies. Now, having said that, Airbnb is low as well. And what's kind of funny is Airbnb has got about literally almost the same revenues as Twitter. Airbnb's looks like their 2020 revenues were 3.6 billion. So very, very, very close to Twitter in their revenue growth. The challenge with respect to Airbnb is they did have a little bit of negative revenue growth, but that's kind of understood because they're a hospitality company and they dealt with COVID. With respect to Twitter, obviously they're not really affected by the virus in the same way. So other growth technologies companies have did pretty well with respect to their revenue growth. Anyway, so that's the real challenge with Twitter, as I see it, is if they can find a way to get their year-over-year revenue growth better, they're gonna they should maybe do well. I mean, their gross profits, which is something I'm really huge on, is 58%. I mean, that's pretty solid. I mean, that's still pretty good. You look at Roku, it's higher than Roku. It's right there like Shopify. Shopify's got about a 55% gross margin. So Twitter's got gross profits higher than Shopify. I love if I could see 70, I love that. I really love when I see like Airbnb and Facebook and all these growth tech that have these really high margins of like 80%. That's always great. And then I did it for Etsy as well, and they're a little bit over 70. So there you go. So there is my take on Twitter. Those are the numbers, and I think that everybody knows. I don't really have to go and take a look at their traffic analysis because it's pretty obvious that they have a lot of traffic and have got a lot of brand value with respect to their with respect to them as a social media business. So hopefully you like that. We'll have to watch Twitter, but I will start to take a little bit of a position on Twitter and see how it does here in 2021. Hey everybody, I got a link down below. It's a blueprint I came out with. I cover investing, I cover online income, I cover credit, business credit, and financial independence. And at the very end of the blueprint, I got a guide. It's a 15-page guide. I've got all the credits, all the groups in the U.S. that give you a free credit score, plus all the groups in the U.S. that give you a free FICO and the corresponding bureau with that FICO, so you never have to pay for a FICO score again. Well, unless they change again, of course. But anyway, so it's only $7, everybody, and that link is down below. So have a great weekend, and let me know your thoughts on Twitter.